Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Manju and today I'm here with English Literature, Gulmohar Class 7, Unit 7. Name of the lesson is Night Witches. To see the title of the story, don't think it's a horror story. Rather, it's a beautiful story which can inspire you. In this chapter, we'll study about who the night witches are and what great things they did. Before we start with the lesson, let's know about the author of the story, who the writer is. So the writer of this story is Megan Garber, who is a staff writer of an American magazine, The Atlantic. What was the name of the magazine? The Atlantic. And she writes about different culture. She covers different cultures of those places. Let's begin paragraph 1. It was the spring of 1943 at the height of World War II. It was 1943, the spring season, when the World War II was on its height, means on its extreme. Two pilot members of the Soviet Air Force were flying their planes Polikarpov PO-2 built mainly of plywood and canvas over a Soviet railway junction. Their passage was on its way to being a routine patrol, until the pilots found themselves face to face with a collection of German bombers, 42 of them. So let's understand what happens here. Two Soviet Air Force pilots were flying their planes. What was the name of the plane? That was Polikarpov PO-2, which was specially made up of plywood and canvas. And where were they flying? They were flying over a Soviet railway junction. Means Soviet railway junction के ऊपर से वो aircraft को उड़ा रहे थे. They were on the way to routine patrol. Routine patrol means to see whether everything is going on well, there's no problem, everything is in control. But what happens? They met with 42 German bombers. All of a sudden they found 42 German bombers in front of them. Let's see paragraph 2. The pilots did what anyone piloting a plane made of plywood would do when faced with enemy aircraft and enemy fire. They ducked. Now the Soviet Air Force pilots, they were only 2 and German bombers were 42. So their aircraft was also made up of plywood and canvas. So they decided to duck, means they moved their head down quickly so that attackers could not see them or hit them. They sent their planes into dives, shooting back directly into the center of the German group. Their tiny plane's flimsiness was in some ways an advantage. They sent their planes into dives, means they started shooting on German attackers. Okay, and the small planes were, flimsiness means they were very weak and thin, as they were made up of plywood. So it was an advantage, means it was a plus point. Let's see how it was a plus point. Their maximum speed was lower than the stall speed of Nazi planes, meaning that the pilots could maneuver their aircraft much more quickly and easily than their attackers. So how it was an advantage? As their fastest speed was lesser than the slowest speed of the Nazi planes. As a result, the pilots could easily move and turn their aircraft than the attackers. Because they were made up of plywood, तो हल्के थे, तो आसानी से वो उसे turn कर सकते थे. Now, the outnumbered Soviets downed the Nazi planes before one of their own lost its wing to enemy fire. The pilot escaped, landing finally in the field. The outnumbered Soviet pilots down 2 Nazi planes means ये जो सोवियत पायलट्स थे इन लोगों ने नाजी के 2 प्लेन्स को मार गिराया. ओके, बट यस Their one plane was also damaged by losing its wing into the fire. The pilot got free and landed in the field. Let's see paragraph 3. The people on the ground who had witnessed the short fight rushed over to help the pilot. The people, those who had seen this fight, they ran fast to help the pilot. They offered alcohol, but the offer was refused. They also served alcohol to those pilots because they had fought very bravely. But that was refused. This alcohol is the liquor, sharab जिसे बोलते हैं. As the pilot would later recall, nobody could understand why the brave lad who had taken on a Nazi squadron wouldn't drink vodka. A squadron means a team of aircraft and the men who fly them. Okay, so what in these lines? It said afterwards the pilot would think. What they would think? That no one was able to understand why the brave lad who fought so bravely refused to have vodka. Vodka, a kind of liquor, okay? So here you need to understand in detail in order to solve the RTC questions. Suppose it is asked, who was this brave lad? Was he really a lad? If not, then who he was? So to make all these points clear, you need to understand in detail. And in the next paragraph, you will get the answer of all such questions. Okay? So here you see, nobody could understand why the brave lad who had taken on a Nazi squadron wouldn't drink vodka. They could not understand why this lad who fought so bravely is not taking vodka. Let's see fourth paragraph. The brave lad, it turned out, was not a lad at all. And now finally it got clear that this brave lad was not a lad. It was Tamara Pemiatnik. Who it was? It was Tamara Pemiatnik, one of the members of the 588th Night Bombers Regiment of the Soviet Air Forces. Who she was? She was Tamara Pemiatnik, and she was one among 588th Night Bombers. Night Bombers, those who fight at the night to drop the bombs. Okay? The 588th was most highly decorated female unit in that force, flying 30,000 missions over the course of 4 years and dropping in total 23,000 tons of bombs on invading German armies. This particular regiment was a female regiment where highly honored team of female air pilots, they were working, and they completed how many missions, 30,000 missions in just a period of 4 years. How many years they took to complete the mission of 30,000? Just 4 years of time. And dropped how many bombs? They dropped 23,000 tons of bombs on German armies. Its members who ranged in age from 17 to 26, and the members of this regiment, they were just between 17 to 26, means they were not more than 26 and not less than 17. Flew mainly at night, making do with planes that were per their plywood and canvas construction, generally reserved for training and crop dusting. They especially flew their aircrafts at night. They did these many missions with their plywood and canvas aircraft, which was usually used for training or for crop dusting. Crop dusting means to spray chemicals on plants to kill the insects or maybe to grow the crops better. They often operated in quiet secrecy, running their engines slowly as they neared their targets, and then gliding their way to their bomb release points. As a result, their planes made little more than soft whooshing noises as they flew by. They used to work secretly and run their engines very slowly when they reached their target. और फिर वहां से ग्लाइड करके अपने बॉम्ब गिराने के पॉइंट पे पहुंच जाया करते थे. And so their planes made very little whooshing sound while flying. Whooshing is the kind of sound which is made by wind. Let's see paragraph 5. Those noises reminded the Germans apparently of the sound of the witch's broomstick. So, the Nazis began calling the female fighter pilots Nachtachsen, night witches. And that whoosing sound made the Germans to feel the witch's broomstick. And then only the Nazis started calling these fighter pilots as Nachtachsen, means night witches. Here you should understand that this is the reason that the title of the story is Night Witches. And next what it is? They were hated and they were feared. And German pilot who downed a witch was automatically awarded an Iron Cross. Iron Cross, a German military award given for bravery. So they were hated and feared, and if any German pilot downed a witch means the female pilot, they were awarded an Iron Cross, means they were awarded the military award.